Good evening. It's 7 o'clock and we have 35 people here so far. And I only see your names. I wish I could see your faces. I'm Susan Taylor and I'm the Executive Director of the Friends of the Delaware Canal. And we're going to have sort of an eclectic program tonight called Canal Times. It's our first venture into Zoom webinars, so cross your fingers that nothing goes too kerflunky, but you never know. Friends normally would be having this program in person, and in fact, all of this program was presented last March up in Riegelsville. And then the pandemic shutdown came along. So we want to share what we think is a good program with you. And it's especially nice for, I think, those of you who don't participate in Facebook, because it features many of our wonderful, wonderful nature photographs. So without further ado, I'm going to start screen sharing. All right. This is our iconic view of the Delaware Canal. The canal is fully watered. There is a authentic camelback bridge, in this case, Summers Bridge in Lower Makefield Township. It's a beautiful autumn day. And in this case, things changed dramatically because 2 days later, Hurricane Sandy hit and didn't quite look like this. This is the image that we used on our jigsaw puzzle last year, which sold out. 300 people out there have jigsaw puzzles featuring this image. Tonight, we're going to be exploring the Delaware Canal from Easton down to Phillips Mill, which is just north of New Hope. So we'll be covering a little over half of the canal's 58.9 mile length. So keep your eyes open, just like this lovely snapping turtle. And sing out if you have a question. In order to ask a question or to chat, use the Q&A button or the chat icon that should appear at the bottom of your screen. Right now, I'm screen sharing, so I don't see much of anything. In Easton, the Delaware River coming in from the north meets, I'm going to start the laser pointer. This is the Delaware River coming from the north, from New York. Over here, we have the Lehigh River coming in, and the two rivers converge at Easton. The Lehigh River is dammed here, specifically in order to build up the level of water to feed the Delaware Canal. And you'll see one of the bridges in Easton. There are three bridges, three railroad bridges in Easton. You'll also see in this photograph a whole lot of seagulls. Here on this log stuck on the dam, on the Lehigh, are some double-breasted cormorants drawing out their wings. And here we are at the beginning of the Delaware Canal. You'll see the bypass, which actually is the structure that currently feeds the Delaware Canal, and then a guard lock. There was also a way lock to weigh canal boats here in Easton, but that's all gone. And this is a picture taken of the participants in one of the Friends of the Delaware Canal's canal walks. This, unfortunately, is a recent photograph. We had a heavy rainfall at Christmas. The Delaware River rose to a minor flood stage the day after Christmas, and river water rushed into the canal and then overtopped, and it took off the earth on the towpath slope, exposing the bentamat liner, which is an artificial synthetic liner. So all this damage needs to be repaired because of those rains, but we're working on it. Going south, we come to a summer scene of the Delaware Canal, taken of what we call the Monet Bridge. Never painted by Monet, but it's reminiscent of Monet's works. This bridge connects the Wahituck Park, which is a Northampton County park on the Burn side of the canal, to the canal towpath. Wahituck Park is going to be seeing some significant improvements in the rather near future, which will be great. And we have eagles. I've often thought of the great blue heron being the most prominent bird on the Delaware Canal, but bald eagles are certainly catching up. There are more and more nesting areas, and this picture is of the bald eagles that are now found up in Williams Township, just south of the city of Easton. And this two photographs show you what you'll see looking with your eye, and then what you can see through a camera's lens. And this photograph shows you just how big a bald eagle's nest is. It really is huge. And at this point in the calendar, if eagles are nesting, they should be on the nest. Interesting how they nest in very cold weather. Going farther south to Robsville, we come to Woody's Bridge. This is one of the 6 authentic camelback bridges that remain along the Delaware Canal. There were once over 100 bridges along the canal, most of them like this one, and there are only 6 left. The Friends of the Delaware Canal have made it their quest to restore the bridges. Woody's was repaired about 2 years ago, and now we're hoping to embark on Spars Bridge down in Upper Black Eddy, and that's the last one that needs restored, but it needs a lot of work. I'm probably hoping that you can help us with that. On south to what we call Groundhog Lock. It's also locks 22 and 23, where there once were 2 locks, and those locks were combined into double wide locks that could accommodate 2 canal boats at once. And this is a view, and also the Theodore Roosevelt Recreation Area. And I'll tell you why it's called that as we go on here. This is a view looking from the north to the lock, and the building here is the wicket shanty, which houses the mechanisms to operate the drop gates. And here we are again, December 26th. Torrential rains washed out the entrance to a culvert, a stone arch culvert that runs under the canal, causing the entrance to collapse and creating a true emergency, which is why there is no water in the canal so far. The state park has already been at work using an independent contractor to repair this, and had it not snowed, it might actually be done by now. And this picture was taken shortly after the collapse, and you can see just how high the canal was. And here you see all the equipment involved in making that repair. Here's a lovely photo of the south end of Groundhog Lock, which shows you the lock chamber itself. I told you I would tell you why it's called the Theodore Roosevelt Recreation Area. Up until 1989, the park was called the Theodore Roosevelt the Theodore Roosevelt State Park. That is because in 1931, when the Commonwealth reacquired the canal, Gifford Pinchot was the governor of Pennsylvania, and his great friend was Theodore Roosevelt, a fellow conservationist. So Gifford Pinchot, the governor, decided he would name this new state park the Theodore Roosevelt State Park. In 1989, as a result of a recommendation made in a master plan commissioned by the Friends, the park name was changed to the Delaware Canal State Park because no one was quite realizing what the park was all about and how on earth Theodore Roosevelt was involved. Okay. Groundhog Lock was also the site of one of the repair projects undertaken in the past year. This is the replacement of the drop gate at the northern end of the lock. Here you can see the lock chamber itself, and that's a rare view because usually you don't see inside the chamber itself. These two metal structures are the wickets themselves, which open up to allow water to flow through. Here's the new drop gate being lifted from the flatbed truck, ready to be placed down into the lock chamber itself. Very dramatic, and a lot of skill and expertise needed to fabricate the lock itself and then successfully drop it into place. And here's an interesting fellow, the pileated woodpecker, the inspiration for Woody the Woodpecker. And he's just about to destroy some wood. At Groundhog Lock, the Friends recently installed a new interpretive sign. It's 3 panels talking about the lost town of Eulersville, because there truly was an industrial town and residents here. You can't tell that anymore. And it also talks about the powerhouse where canal water was used to generate electricity, as well as the transportation in the area, particularly the trolley line that ran along the hillside by River Road from Easton down to Doylestown. And Groundhog Lock is also a place where you can launch your kayaks and canoes. We, in the good old days when we weren't pandemic bound, we had kayaking trips, which are a great way for people to experiment with kayaking. And here's something that the friends contributed and installed. This little metal bar connects with a little arm that's now underneath the kayak. And what it does is holds the kayak steady so one can get in and out of the boat much more easily. It's really amazing how much easier one little metal stake and cradle can make boarding a boat. And another project completed last year, again as a result of torrential rainfall 2 years ago. The Fry's Run Aqueduct, which is a water bridge carrying the canal's waters over the incoming Fry's Run Creek, Fry's Run Creek, to wash out. The walls gone, much of the aqueduct gone, a huge construction job to rebuild it. And this is the completed project before the grass started to grow and before the water was reintroduced. Unfortunately, in this last September rain, a couple of these floorboards in the aqueduct peeled up a bit, so that needs to be repaired as well. But that's not all that significant a project. And here we are in Riegelsville, and a landmark, what's known locally as the Flag Barn, on the property of the founder of Riegelsville, Benjamin Riegel. Here, the Flag Barn's getting a paint job. An old postcard view looking south. Here's the main road that takes you from River Road at the traffic light across the canal and down to the river to the Roebling Bridge over to Riegelsville, New Jersey. And I believe this is probably the Flag Barn on the Riegel property. Riegelsville and the fields west of the canal are shore landing spots for snow geese when they are in town. Usually, these photographs are taken in January. And the thing that I forgot at the very beginning, all these wildlife photos that we're going to be seeing tonight were taken by Carol Mebus, who lives nearby, goes out nearly every day, and takes exceptional, sort of gifted nature photographs. Personally, I think she's magic, because who else can make birds pose quite so well? Going south from Riegelsville, we come to Durham. And those of you who have traveled up 611 have known just how long the bridge over, now I can't think what creek it is. Anyway, the creek there was under construction. We were having one of our bald eagle walks in April, and I was yammer-jammering at the Durham Lock and Aqueduct about the history of Durham and such, and one of the canal walkers looked back, and he looked up at the crane at the bridge construction site and saw that 2 osprey were starting to build a nest in the crane. Fortunately, Carol Mebus immediately called the proper people, and the nest, which at that point really was nothing but a couple sticks, like such as you see here today, was dismantled, and the Osprey moved up to the cell phone tower at the bank in Regalsville. But it was just very, very fortunate that we had someone on the walk who was observant and saw what could have been a very sad situation. Going south from Durham, we walk right past Trogger's farm. The 8 generations of the Trogger family have lived on this property, and it's a thriving farm market. And the fields, the agriculture fields sit right next to the canal. So when you're walking down the towpath, you're treated to the views of sunflowers and zinnias and sometimes cabbages. And one year there were raspberries, which were temptations for everyone. Further south, we come to the Knockwickson Cliffs, also called the Narrows, also called the Palisades. These are stone cliffs that rise 360 feet straight up from the Delaware River and Canal. If we saw them today, they'd be covered in ice. They're also home to some endangered species, and it is nesting time, so ice climbing on the cliffs is currently prohibited until after the nesting season is over. This is one of the photos that is simply amazing. We're here at the Knockwickson Cliffs at Lock 20, and there's really, other than the house, nothing here that would indicate that there was a grist mill on the riverside. There was a covered bridge over the canal, which wasn't public. It was only for use by the mill. And you had these other little interesting structures, but a place where it's just natural area, and you really can't imagine that that mill ever could have stood there. It looks like it's straight down, drop to the river. South from Lock 20 is what was called the Indian Rock Inn, and this picture shows the Native American mural that was on the side of the inn. It has been renovated and is now open again. It's called The Narrows, and on that wall is now a painting of a great blue heron wearing a top hat. And this is a photo taken in front of the Indian Rock. And it wasn't all work on the Delaware Canal. There was a lot of play going on. These launches all decked out. You know, you have the scalloped edging along the top of the roof. You have curtains in the cabin. Everyone is dressed up. The ladies have their hats and long dresses on, and they're going on an outing on the canal. And they have some kind of very individualized flag there too. Going south, we come to Spars Bridge, which is one of the 6 authentic camelback bridges. This is the one that hasn't been restored, the one that we have had in our sites for years. The stars have now much better aligned, and we're hoping that this bridge can be restored to its former glory. It's a big job. The stone abutments need to be rebuilt. There was an earthquake here in 2003, which really did a number of the abutments. And then the superstructure is leaning. So it's probably going to be a job in the neighborhood of $400,000. Undertaken by DCNR and hopefully with private contributions. Poison ivy when it's pretty in the fall, and also showing off its berries, which are a vital food source for birds. This is a yellow-rumped warbler, one of the migrating warblers that come through along the Delaware Canal. Over 90 species of birds have been identified along the canal. And here it is with some poison ivy berries. This is a bird's eye view of Upper Black Eddy in Milford, New Jersey, showing the covered bridge over the river. And down here on the canal, you have two canal boats shown. Interestingly enough, Upper Black Eddy was home to many of the men and women who worked on the Delaware Canal. They came home to their farms. And here we are at Homestead Store, a favorite destination now, and definitely a destination then, as Singley's General Store. Today, Homestead is the only general store that still operates along the Delaware Canal. They roast their own coffee. It's very good coffee. I remember the time when they sold Dalmatian puppies, and in their parking lot, you'll still see remnants of the days when they sold coal. So it's a fine place to stop. And here at Homestead Store along the towpath was the first time that I had ever seen butterflies puddling. These are tiger swallowtails, and they're essentially sucking up minerals in the dampness in the mud. Canal Cleanup Day is coming. This year it's scheduled for Saturday, April 10th. It will be different because of COVID and the restrictions about groups being together. We're going to be promoting it as a day for individuals and family groups or people who feel safe together to go out on the canal and give it its spring cleaning. Traditionally, we clean all 58.9 miles of the canal, and more than 300 volunteers would turn out. So individuals now, hear a lot of the groups from the past, and I like this one because you really never know what you're going to find on cleanup day. In this case, it was a pair of plastic lips, which are pretty apropos for Valentine's Day coming up. And we're also going to extend cleanup day out throughout the month of April. So there'll be lots of time for you to get out and help the canal look its best. And here we have a great blue heron, which people do identify with the Delaware Canal. In fact, Carol Mebus sent me a photograph today of a great blue heron standing in the snow beside a little opening in the ice. Coming south, we come to Euler's Town. Michael Euler, who lived with his brother up in Eulersville at Groundhog Lock, saw great opportunity coming with the Delaware Canal and came south and started his own town, essentially built most of the buildings that are still there today. And Hewlerstown is reputed to be the best preserved canal hamlet in America. It really is like walking back in time. It's the site of Lock 18, which you see here, and it's also the place that has the only covered bridge over the canal for public use. The bridge itself is owned by the County of Bucks. And further south, we come to the Tinicum Aqueduct, one of the three major capital projects that were undertaken by the state park and completed last year in 2020. In this case, again, torrential rains came in, blew out the earthen bank. This stone wall here is the new wall. The metal trough, which is a substitute for a real aqueduct, was relined. The pier was strengthened, and the walkway beside the trough was rebuilt. Another big project. Along River Road and along the canal in the spring, one of my favorite plants are the Dutchman's breeches. And they're called Dutchman's breeches because they're supposed to look like a Dutchman's pair of pants hanging upside down on the clothesline. There's the clothesline, here are the pants. There are more and more wood ducks living along the Delaware Canal. Just very, very handsome creatures. Here's the male, and here's the female, and the kids. And a turkey vulture staring down, waiting for its next meal. Interestingly enough, turkey vultures seem to gather in areas along the canal. There were a lot of them in New Hope for a while, a whole lot in Point Pleasant. Now they're sort of up in Riegelsville. You'll see them in other places, but there's these groupings for whatever reason. They are scavengers, and they have that bald head for a good reason. They're not the tidiest of eaters. And lovely, lovely shot. A monarch butterfly nectaring on a thistle. And up here, you'll see a bee. Very neat photo. And here we are in Lumberville. Here's the pedestrian bridge over the canal and over the river connecting Lumberville to Bulls Island and the Delaware and Raritan Canal State Park in New Jersey. And this picture with the canal watered was taken in 2016, not all that long ago. Hope springs eternal. The pedestrian bridge is one of 6 river bridges that connect the Delaware Canal towpath to the Delaware and Raritan Canal towpath in New Jersey. Soon there will be 7 when the pedestrian walkway on the Scudder Falls Bridge, which is I-295, is completed. We hope this fall. The lovely old postcard of the bridge tender's house at the Lumberville Bridge. And again, this is known to be the finest bridge tender's house in Pennsylvania. The building is still there, and this is a free bridge, no toll. Tolls were collected I think most of the other bridges. And here we are back again with the bald eagles. They are in more and more places. The top photo here shows the mother or father and a juvenile, with little head sticking out. And this picture was taken looking across the river at Cuddalassa Road. And then over here you have the Williams Township bald eagle. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, this is Williams Township. This is the bald eagle up at Lynn Island. And this is the bald eagle across from the Virginia Forest Recreation Area in Sulbury. So eagles are very much in sight, so keep your eye open, just like that snapping turtle in the beginning. This is a picture of the Virginia Forest Recreation Area. It's a mile and a third north of Center Bridge. This to me looks exactly like mile marker 29, which means you're about halfway. The mile markers, which are engraved granite blocks with the number of the mile, were a project of the Friends of the Delaware Canal, and the daffodils were planted along the canal by Bucks Beautiful. And to the left is a picnic area, which was created by the Friends. Also at Virginia Forest, you will be able to find a real, live, authentic restroom. There aren't a lot. Okay. Coming south, we're in Center Bridge with an old postcard view. We're a little insubstantial looking metal bridge over the canal connecting to a covered bridge over the river. This bridge burned in 1931, I'm going to say. Don't hold me to it. And over here was a store and post office. And here's a little critter, public enemy number one. When the canal was in commercial operation, it's a muskrat. And muskrats can cause terrible problems because they burrow into the canal bank and you get a flow of water started and the entire bank can blow out just because of one little burrowing muskrat. In the canal days, you could be paid a nickel a piece for a muskrat tail, so, which was not a bad sum. I'm sorry, it was a quarter a piece, which is a big sum. But in fact, a muskrat caused a problem down at Black Rock Road in Yardley not all that long ago, creating some bank erosion. And here we are at Phillips Mill, an artist colony set along the canal. William Lathrop, one of the New Hope Impressionists, settled here and started a school. He had a boat called the Sunshine that he had in a boat slip and would run down the canal to New Hope to pick up his students who came via railroad and bring them back to Phillips Mill. And the Lathrops also essentially created a place where artists and other people in Bucks County could gather socially. The Morgan Cult, an artist, sculptor, metal worker, etc., settled on the Phillips Mill property, and this is one of the buildings that he built. This picture was taken during one of the Friends fundraisers, Faces and Places, where we tour places along the Delaware Canal and see interesting faces and learn about all the interesting things that happened. And that's the end of our show for tonight. So you've seen part one. Part two will be essentially New Hope south to Bristol with the same combination of nature and what's going on and what happened in the past. Oh, and I forgot to add, Phillips Mill is also the site where some very exciting things are happening to restore it as a true haven for artists. And we have a question. Is Center Bridge where Dilly's is now? That's exactly where Center Bridge is. Dilly's is the landmark, as well as the Center Bridge Inn, which has an interesting history all of its own. So if you have any questions, type them in now. And if not, thank you. Enjoy the snow. And we will continue to do these virtual events, and hoping that in May we can go back to our schedule of doing pop-up events where we can take a limited number of people out on the towpath and see what's to be seen. I think our first venture will probably go from Virginia Forest going south. So that'll be fun. And thank you all for all your thank yous in chat. Appreciate that. And stay tuned. Those of you who are on our mailing list will be getting a new newsletter relatively soon, which will be great. And we miss you all. And hope to see you soon, and enjoy the canal and all its sights. There's always something different. Thank you, and that's it. Now I have to figure out how to stop. There we go. Thanks.